How we doing? Doing good, doing good.
Marshawn Lynch was at practice yesterday. Was he offering neck rubs to coordinators this time? Or is that just a
No, that's
microphone?
just for Mike. That's just for Mike. Yep.
Ryan, on your tight ends, just the importance, I talked about going a little bit, just the importance of the run game, how that's the way you're shifting them around. I know it's a monologue, but can you talk about the importance of your tight ends in the run block, and then how you're using that to help their passing?
Yeah, I think just like anybody, the tight ends have to be tied into the run game, and when they can make a difference there, they obviously free themselves up in the pass game, and certainly our guys have done that. And whether it's Noah or Farrell or AJ, I think they're all coming into their own as pass blockers and run blockers, and then they're getting free on some of those concepts because of the work they're doing in the run game.
AJ talked about secondary blocking.
Yep.
And that helps the extended run.
Yeah, for sure. I think all of our guys are doing a great job of that. I thought we've improved all year at that, and it's really catching on when some of your best guys are, you see DK blocking down the field on extended runs or throws where other guys are catching the football. It takes on a whole new demeanor. It's not just about offensive linemen finishing; it's about everybody. So it certainly has been a leadership process.
You mentioned DK's blocking. Have you ever seen a receiver with a combination of physical ability and willingness to block at that position?
No, not quite like DK. No, he's impressive for sure. So I think that was one of the things that early on impressed me about DK is just his willingness to be part of that, part of the process. And some guys are just not interested in that at all. I think DK takes pride in being a physical player, and certainly shows that.
Charbonnet's long touchdown run, what all went into that?
A lot of reps. No, I think just guys executing and knowing how to block multiple fronts, which certainly was something that Arizona did a good job of. Presenting a lot of different pictures for our guys, and I thought they did a really good job of being ready for multiple structures up front. And we got a look that we liked in that one, and they hit it.
Was that a situation where I think Gino said that wasn't his audible, that was the play that you called, but was that a situation where you guys got to the line quickly and then you adjusted based on what you saw?
Yep, on that one it was. Yep.
When you look at the Packers, the takeaways certainly stand out.
Yeah.
Gino says that doesn't change his aggressiveness downfield, but how do those numbers factor into maybe how you would game plan?
Well, you can't, just like Gino said, I don't think you can look at it. I think you have to respect the things that they do well and the players that are playing well for them. So you certainly have to know where those guys are at. And their boundary safety 29 is a really good player. So you certainly have to respect his ball skills. But I think at the end of the day, you have to trust yourself that you're going to make the right decisions in the right moments. Otherwise, if you say you're not going to put the ball down the field, you're taking away a lot of the best parts of our offense.
What makes an offensive lineman good at a gap scheme versus a zone scheme in terms of run blocking? Any attributes that?
I think the guys that are at the point of attack, so the pullers have to have they got to love contact. There can't be any fear when they get to that gap and that they can displace somebody. And I think that there's a challenge to that you can't have a finesse player at the point of attack on a gap play. And so certainly your guys that are pulling, Tawa and some of those guys and Lakin they've shown willingness to do that. And I thought that was one of the things that we were able to really focus on. When you pull from a little bit wider point, your tackles have, I don't want to say less physical pull, but they just have more space and opportunity. A lot of times they're on a secondary player versus a down lineman. So I think, first of all, the point of attack guys got to be super physical and willing to, displace a gap.
When you have linemen that are better at one than the other, what challenges does that present? And do you feel like maybe now you have a more uniform set of what people are good at on the line than you've had in the past?
I think the versatility piece is really what we talk about is, having the ability to run multiple schemes is not it's not easy to do, just in the sense that you have preparation against a lot of these NFL teams that have different fronts and things like that you got to be ready to block different structures. So there's a time element there, certainly, and then you just got to decide, what are the concepts that you really like that you think your guys can be good at. And so for us, I think you just try to match those things the best we can. We certainly have, a lot of different schemes that we can run, but you want to obviously get good at a couple things.
How important is Scott's ability to communicate that to that unit and to the leaderships so that they can be versatile?
Yeah, Huff does a great job with that, and I think he's done a good job of, weathering the storm, so to speak. At times there's been some rough sledding, obviously, and there will continue to be those moments where it's difficult to block, NFL fronts, with the players that different teams have. So I think, his mindset and mentality, what he brings to the room, just that we're going to keep working and finding solutions and get better. I think that's one of the things we've been preaching for a long time, is that, there's still development that has to happen in NFL players, even, some of your young guys, but just development doesn't mean just a skill set. It also means, learning the whole scheme and really understand what we're trying to get done. And those guys gelling up front, they've certainly done a really good job of that in the last couple of weeks. And I know it hasn't always shown up, but there's been a couple games where a couple tackles here and there. We have a 55-yarder, 1 week. Now all of a sudden, 85-yard game turns into 130 yards rushing. So I think that we were kind of due for that a little bit. But the guys had a great attitude and certainly want to keep getting better at that.
You mentioned them, Jelling. How have you seen that group grow? Now you've had, Olu's been in there for a few weeks. You've had Abe back. Now you're adding Tower to the mix for a couple games where it's starting to kind of get going with the same group.
Yeah, I think, certainly their mentality on the finish part of things has been showing up. I thought last week just collectively as an offense, but certainly in the offensive line, showing the willingness to outfinish an opponent, I think is always, something that you want that to be a redeeming quality in the O-line room. And for those guys, following Olu's lead as far as, just having a steady influence and being excitable but still have a calm, don't ride the highs and lows of a football game. I think Olu embodies that, and that's one of the things I think he really does a good job bringing to the unit is just, never get too high, never get too low, just keep working. And a lot of times for offensive linemen, coming back to a look or trying to find a successful way to block a different front is something you have to be willing to work through in a game.
Packers are one of the heaviest run-centric teams on early downs. You guys are one of the heaviest pass-centric teams on early downs. What do you think leads play callers to be more leaning one versus the other in early downs?
I think it certainly leads to potential for skill set and what they feel like they're really good at, and I think that, some of those things can be systematic for sure, and obviously Coach LaFleur has had a lot of success with the system that he runs and maybe even more heavy right now than he's been in the past because of the success that they've had. So I think certainly everybody is programmed to follow their system to a point, but everybody's always going to follow what they feel like, gives them the best chance to be efficient on early downs.
I know you obviously watch a lot of defenses, but when you watch an offense or an offensive play caller, what makes you respect somebody that's an offensive player? What do you notice about them that leads you to respect the way they call a game?
Well, that's a good question. I think a couple things are ability to adjust. Obviously those are always things that you want to have a steadiness to how you call and find ways to be able to stick with the game plan and not give up on it right away, but also have some creativity, set up plays, find ways to take advantage of things that you see throughout the course of a game and then implement that during a game and then just game plans when you see them come to life. Throughout a game you can see guys getting back to a similar look or something that they want to attack.
You've gone against coordinators for the second time now, twice.
Yep.
What have you learned about that experience going against them for the second time?
I think you always look at the game plan, the first one that you had, and things that maybe you could have missed out on. And I think those are situations I think a lot of play callers get, throughout whether it's playoff football in college or divisional opponents in NFL. I think those are times where you just look at your game plan and what were your notes after the game? What were you happy about, not happy about? What did you not exploit? What could you have done better? What should you have stuck with? I think those are always things that you can highlight.
Last week we were talking about guys in their trees they come from. Their coordinator Jeff, I can't remember his last name, but the Packers coordinator. Is there a tree that kind of inspires
Somewhat. He's kind of been around a little bit. There's a little bit of 49ers in him, but he definitely has his own flavor on how he does it.
How would you characterize? What's the identity of his team?
Obviously they focus on taking the ball away. I think that they're very solid. They're scheme sound on first and second down. Like they want to make sure they're forcing you to get into third downs, and then I think they're super creative on third down and very, very aggressive. So you're talking about a heavy zone team on first and second down, and then you get into third down, and it's kind of on.
The situation with Connor was obviously like a big curveball. How do you feel like it's gone with Olu jumping back into that spot relative or compared to like how you expected it to go when that was kind of a sudden abrupt thing?
I don't think that anyone was wildly surprised by Olu doing a good job. I think, tip of the cap to the guys on the team, and not just the offense, but the team getting behind Olu and believing in him that he was going to be ready for that moment. And for us, I thought there was such a development that happened. And you never know how things are going to work out or why they do. But when Olu didn't, get the job and Connor came in, and Olu kind of had, and I've mentioned this before, he kind of had to be reflective of where he was at as a player, and what was it that he wasn't getting done that he felt like he could get better at. And I thought what he did the best job of was, instead of sulking and sitting back and pouting, he went to work. And I thought, I know he is a much better player than he was during the first week of training camp. So that's a big time tip of the cap to Olu, just the way he's approached this, and he's meant a lot to the offense. Just bringing that steadiness to us.
And the steadiness for a guy who wasn't even a starter last year, only had the one season under his belt. I think he started one game. How impressive is it to have that kind of presence? Yeah, no, it's very impressive. I think some guys certainly. I think it's a good point that they can be overwhelmed by a moment, or I just think you can see when you talk to Olu the belief that he had in himself. Which is critical, right, as a center for sure. And I thought Olu's really embodied that, especially as he's grown in this last couple weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. I think that he's been the same guy. And I think that, that consistency and a leader in the offense is really important. You know what you're getting every day with him. He's going to show up. He's going to work. He's going to ask the right questions. He's going to want to make sure he gets it right, and he's going to demand that from his unit.
What was the sudden change play calling? You had a couple of opportunities last week after the defensive takeaways. Is there something in particular that you're looking for in those moments? You can. Some people really don't have any tells defensively, and some people do. So you just try to do some research, and honestly, it really is always about us. We're trying to think about things that we can do, and when to be aggressive and when to, just keep the hammer down on them.
You guys have been facing a lot of zone defense. Talk about the importance of being willing to check the ball down and take something underneath yards when that's what the defense is giving you.
Yeah, it certainly takes a lot of discipline at the quarterback position. I think that can be difficult at times, and I think that those are things that Gino has shown that he can be really, really good at. I've felt that all season. I know it hasn't always played out exactly like that, but I've always felt like Gino's a good decision maker and can make quick reads and just live with the free money, and the other plays will come to him, and as they get tighter on it, then he can keep working the ball down the field just like he's done all year. So I don't think there's any, magic to it other than just good discipline and good quarterback play.
Back to the Charbonnet, one more on that, the touchdown run. Was that the shift you made, was that anticipating the blitz from Buda Baker?
Maybe.
Thank you.
You bet.
Anything else? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.